on it. I'm going to go through what we did in class today. And so I opened up this Excel file called Chipotle. And Chipotle is a restaurant here in the United States. And let's start looking at this at this file. And there's one worksheet, and in this called sheet one, it's got a bunch of information. Column A, this is the most visited restaurant from a survey. Column B stands for word of mouth. Column C is social media. Column D is walk, as when they walk by when they grab the person for the interview. This one, column E, they saw it on a billboard. A couple more columns that might be important. Come over to column J. So over here, important, healthy. The respondents indicate how important a healthy meal is for them. And let's see, column T has the age, column U has income. So we'll use some of this. When you're setting things up, you may want to move things around a little bit. I'm going to click on enable editing so I can do stuff. There's a personal preference you can choose. You can pick the size of your formula bar. You can make it really big. Well, that's really big. Or you can make it smaller. I usually have it a little bit larger than what the defaults are, just because sometimes my formulas can be a little more complicated. So put in there something that's useful to you. Let's see, I think I can draw on here. Right around here, you can, if you have a PC or Mac, I think you can click on that and you can tell it to give you some basic statistics, which can be really useful. I'm going to right click. Actually, I'm going to select some data first of all. So I've got a bunch of data points. Here I have the average, the count, min, max, and sum. If I right click this, I have the option of selecting the ones that I want. And so that might be something that's really easy for a really quick analysis. Another thing I'd like to point out that you can do, if you want to navigate something really fast, Control key is your friend. If I hit Control, I can use an arrow down. It'll go all the way until right before there's no more data. If I go to the end of that, I can go all to the very end of Excel. Move left to right, same thing. It goes until you run out of data. You can do the same thing in Word when you're trying to go over words. You use the Control and arrow over. Now this isn't, well, not necessary. I'm going to freeze some panes, go to View, and I'll freeze to the top row. That makes it easier for me to use this data. Another thing I'll want to do is I'm going to rename the sheet from sheet one to data. If I just click it a couple times, it'll get there. There we go. Data. I usually like to have names that make a little bit more sense. For me, it's easier to navigate through things. I'm going to add another worksheet. I'm going to call this one, well, you can right click, rename, that works too. Results. And if I'm looking at this data, I might want to think about, okay, what does this data tell me? I may notice that it looks like some of the name spellings are not consistent. So for example, this one has as you call them, a row 21, there's lowercase f, uppercase f. So that might give me some inconsistent results depending on how I'm looking at things. Maybe I want to change that. In class today, somebody suggested we put this in alphabetical order. Yeah, that was a really good suggestion, and we did that. There's some missing data points in here. Does that mean that we completely delete those rows of data, those records? Probably not, but we want to keep that in mind. There may be some formatting we want to do. For example, I'm going to change the income to a currency. Looks a little bit better. All of these are whole numbers. There we go. And so that looks a little bit better. Not that that's needed or not, but sometimes it's nice to better interpret the data if you have more organized. I think first of all, let's just clean up the restaurant name. There's a couple ways you can do this in Excel. I'm going to add a filter. So I go to Home, add filter, and then I can look at these, expand this. one way I can do this, so I'm looking at Chick-fil-A. So all of these are 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 different spellings of Chick-fil-A. So I filtered to just those. Well, I like the way that one is. I'm going to copy that and then I'll select all of these and paste it. I can right click or Control V. I will paste. Now when I look at this list, it's just Chick-fil-A. Chipotle, I do the same thing with Chipotle. There we go. I'll pick that. And then I copied it and then I'll paste everything in the column. And now it's got one spelling. I'll do the drop down, only one. I've got in and out. I'll do that. It looks like somebody started to write something else with in and out. They started to write the kebab shop. I need to be sure that I'm absolutely certain that they're looking at in and out and not that whole row is not supposed to be a kebab shop. But if I feel fairly certain about it, then I'll proceed. Let's see, what else do I want to look at? Jason's Deli. Okay, let me show you another way how I can look at this. I'm going to select this whole column A and I can do Control H. That's finding in place. So I want to find actually Jason's Deli. I want that to be Jason's Deli. Now, it is the find is not case sensitive, but they replace with is. So I think the J and the D were uppercase, but I can type it as lowercase and it doesn't matter. Yeah, replace with, that part does matter. We hit replace all, it'll tell me they found one replacement. And so now when I do this drop down, that's cleaned up. Jason's Deli, yep. Gives, oh, there's some McDonald's. I want to clean up that. There we go. I'll copy, paste. So when you first get a data set, it's really important to clean it up, make it useful for what you're doing. Panera Bread, if I'm confident that both of those are the same place. Oh, uppercase and lowercase, yeah. If they're two different restaurants, I would not want to do this. I want to keep them separate, but if I'm sure that they're the same one, then I could do that. Let's see, Pizza Express, Pizza Hut, Starbucks, Subway. Those two are the same. I think I've got one more I want to do this. Wendy's. Okay. No, there's only two. So now that I've cleaned this up, this data will be a little bit more easier for me to work with. Okay, start doing some exercise. I'm going to use the control. Come over here to column AD. I'm going to label this one concatenate. Concatenate means you're taking a bunch of columns and you're putting them together. A couple ways I can do this. One is if I'm pretty sure I know what I want to do, but I'm not sure the name of the formula. If I come up to the formula bar, there's a part where I click on insert function and it will ask me what I want to do. So I join columns together. And I might find that, there we go, concatenate formula. Yes, that's what I want. Where did it? There we go. Concatenate. It'll give you a function. If I click OK, I can start putting things in. So for example, I want column A2, which has the restaurant name. And I'm going to put a space. To insert a space, I'll actually put a quotation mark, space, quotation mark. And then I'm going to add T2. That's the age. And so what this gives me, I just concatenated the restaurant name and the age. I can copy this all the way down. This way it gives me a class of something that I can do some analytics on. Like I want to know what's the average income of Chick-fil-A customers that are 35 years old. I have some information that I can use to come up with that. So concatenate is kind of a longer formula. Another way that's a little more simple, I can just say A3, use the ampersand. And this really does the exact same thing. If I want to copy the formula all the way down, when I mouse over the right-hand corner where the little boxes, I double click, it will copy that formula all the way down to now. So it was concatenate before, but now let's see, I'm going to shift over so I can look at the formula. So it's just the cell, ampersand, space, ampersand, the cell. No, that works just as well. So there's concatenate. Let's use a formula called len. And len is short for length. And so if I do, for example, len the cell A2, which has in and out, that will give me how many characters are within that cell. So Chick-fil-A is 11, Chipotle is 8, Panera is 6, KFC is 3. Those strings are short enough. I can probably just count them, maybe in about as much time as it takes for me to write a formula. So that's not super interesting. What can be even more interesting, though, is if I'm looking at, for example, let's look at len salary. The salary has which column is this? It's over here. Oh, column U. I click on, see, len U2. So $20,942. That's a 5-figure salary. If I want to find one that's the 6-figure salary or the 4-figure salary, that might be an interesting application of len. You'll notice some of these have 0 because they don't have any data information in there. So at least understand what your data is doing. Great. So those are a couple of formulas: concatenate, len, and leg salary. I'm going to go over to the results. I think the first quiz question might be something like, what is AF something? And you can find the value in there. So as you work on, keep the quiz open as we work through this, and you'll be able to answer the questions. I'm going to come over to the results worksheet, and I want to put a list of all the restaurants. And so what I can do is unique. I'm going to come over here, column A, and I'll select all of the restaurants. So that is data A2 to A358. By using the unique formula, I have a unique list of all the restaurants. And that's nice. It's not in any order. So maybe I do want to order it. What formula might I use? Well, sort. Really easy. I'll just type in sort. And now they're sorted by alphabetical order. I think if I wanted to do sort, I could use, well, there's only one column. It'll sort it by alphanumeric order. If you have a data set with a whole bunch of columns, you can sort it by multiple columns. Like, for example, if you have a customer file with a bunch of names, because you're going to have customers with the same last name. And so you can sort it by last name, then first name. Or you can even do last name, first name, then address or something like that. Because some people might even have the same first and last name. But either way, sort and unique is a pretty handy formula. And that gives us a list of all of those. And so we've cleaned up the data, which means that we only see each of those names once, which is great. How many of those restaurants do we have of each one? I'm going to use count, and then I'll use a formula called count if. And there it gives a range and a criteria. And so I'm going to click on this entire range, and I want the criteria of the restaurant to the left of it. So there's one Applebee's. It looks like there's 57 Pollo Loco, 76 In-N-Out, 40 Subways, 1 Taco Bell, 1 The Market, 2 Wendy's. How about percentage? I'm going to call this %. So how often does Applebee's appear in the data set? Well, I'll take that number divided by the sum of everything in column B. I'm going to format that to make it look pretty. Oh, it's 50%. And there I have that. If I want to know which one of these appears most frequently, if I have either percent or count selected, I can come down here, average 4.76, count 21, min, max 21.3%. So which one of these has 21.3%? That number makes it easy. Or I can look at these, max of 76. Which one of these has 76? That's in and out. So those are a couple of formulas that can be useful. I'm gonna come over here. How many of the respondents included their income and how many had no income? With income, no income. The formula for that one is that I'll use is count A, or you could also just do count. Count A counts the number of cells in a range that contains numbers. And so that's count A is count the number of cells in a range that are not empty. So you could, if you have something written like a word, actually, so for this one, you could do probably the easiest way. I could just do count, and I come over here. This column has it's U income. So I'm counting all the numbers. There's 343. If I wanted to use count A, the non-blanks, the number of cells that are not empty, instead of that, I wanted to go to U to, what is that, 358, I think it is. Yeah, we're going to row 358. I have to write a little more complicated, but it still works. If I want to have no income, I'm just going to copy this formula. I'll paste it in here, then I'll update the formula. And so we're counting ones that have nothing in there. And so count blank. So that shows, it says there are 14 that are blank in there. Something that might be kind of cool. Let's look at some more things. How many total days to gather data? I want to do that. How about total work days to gather data? There's some information about dates in here. And so this one I can do equals days. And I want, let's see, max. And that is column, I think it's column Z. And date of survey. Okay, so we're looking at the max. And the start date is min of the column Z. So this days formula tells us the survey was collected over 151 days. What about how many work days? There's a formula called net work days. And this will emit every weekend, every Saturday and Sunday. And you can add a bunch of holidays in there if you want to. This one is it's a little bit backwards. It has the start date first. So min, so data, I think that was column Z. And the end date is max data, column Z. And so that tells us over the 151 days, 109 of those were actual work days. I did that right. So over here, third, let's see, after start and end date, you put in holidays and whatever. Okay, so that's work days. Let's look at something that's kind of cool called forecast. I'm going to go to right here and I'll type in income and age. And I'll put in a few ages. Let's see, how about 30, 40, 80. And so we're going to do the forecast. It will basically run a regression. We want to know, based off of the input of this value in here, what can we expect the value to be based off of a known y's and known x's. Y's are outputs. And so I'm going to come over here. That's income. The known x's is age. So that's T, hit enter. I'm just gonna copy this all the way down. And so if you have some value in here, let's see, it's just based off of the mathematical formula. If I put 300 years old, and then that person, you can expect their income to be $134,097.68 or 69 cents. I'm gonna turn that to a currency or whatever value you put in there to adjust. So that's kind of a cool formula. What if, now let's do some more statistics. I'm gonna ask a very specific question. How many people between the ages of 18 and 25 rated important healthy score of 5? So that could be a lot of filtering, but you also have a range in there. When you start to get more complicated questions like that, run with the pivot table. We come over here, and to get a pivot table, click on Insert, find Pivot Table. Great, already know one of the data. New worksheet, yes. And I'm going to name this one Pivoteer. I mean, it doesn't matter what you name it. Name it something that's useful to you. Pivot table, whatever you want. And the first thing I'm going to do is filter to ages. So if I come over here, I'm going to throw the age column into the filter box. And I'm going to come up here to cell B1. I'll drop the filter. I'm going to select multiple items, unselect all, because I only want 18 to, what about 25? Okay, now we're filtered to just a specific set of ages. And I'm interested in the healthy column. So let me find the right one. Important healthy. I'm going to drop that into rows. And I'm going to drop that into value. Now, really, I could filter to just 5. Or I can leave them all there to display the data as needed. I don't want sum of important. That's not really useful to me. But so I can do, if I go over here to where it said values, let's see. Yeah, click over where it said values. I'm going to click on value field settings. And it's at sum. I'm going to change that to count. And when I do that, I can see that people between the ages of 18 and 25 primarily had something that's healthy and really important. 32 of them. There's 38 total. 32 thought that was really important. Only 2, we gave it a score of 4. 4 gave it a score of 3, somewhat important. But most of them put important, healthy, and really is a high priority for them. So there's our pivot table. Let's look at quartiles. Oops, we're going to go to results. Let's see, where should I? Oh, maybe about right here. Let's see. I'm going to type in age quartile. Quartiles 1, 2, 3, 4. We're looking at age, so I'll use a formula called quartile. And I think that's column T. Let me just double check. T is age, yes. And I'm just going to put 1 as a placeholder. Okay, T, I can put, I want that quartile. So I'm using quartile. I could also use percentile. If I use the formula percentile, I need to put 0.25 or 25%, for the first quartile, 0.5 or 50% for the second quartile, and so on. So about half of them, the people are about 38 years of age or younger, or half are 38 or older. So that's how we can interpret quartiles and how we can include them. I'm going to let's look at the formula called rank. That's pretty useful. I'm going to type in here, count, rank. I mean, I'm doing it this way. You could do it differently, but I'll just set it up this way. I'm going to put transpose. Come over to data. I'm going to transpose these types of ways of contact. And when I do that, well, normally it should work. say transpose data B1 to E1. I wonder why I didn't. That would normally take. Use this form. Okay, that worked. I must have spelled something incorrectly. So word of mouth, social media, walk-in, billboard. And then I want to count each of these. Really, I mean, it says count, but all of this data is organized as 0 and 1. If I use count, it'll count the zeros as the value, but I really want the sum. So how many were word of mouth? There were 190. And this one I want to do sum social media. So that's that one. If I want a shortcut, I can take these and I'll just copy them over here, just drag them down. So sum of column D is 117. Sum of column E is 4. I want to do rank. The formula is rank. I'm ranking this against all of these. 190 is the highest. That's going to be a value of 1. Rank that compared to all of these. Now I only have 4, so I could probably just type it out. That would make sense. I can also come in here. I'll select H3. Okay, that's good. Or I might come in here H20. Let's see. Anchor it by using the F4 key. And so I could copy this all the way down. And so social media has a rank of 3. There's our rank. Let's look at some of the formulas now. I'm going to come over to M1 and I'll type restaurants. And then we have, let's see, word of mouth. We have social media, walk by billboard, however you want to do this. And I could recreate the wheel, but that could be a lot of work. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come over to cell A2 into the formula bar, I'll hit Control C, and then I can come over here and paste it in the formula bar. It's important you do this in the formula bar. Let me show you why. If I just copy this cell, because it's not anchored, I come over here, that's not really what I want. And so I need to make sure I use into the formula bar, or I can anchor before I copy and paste. I need to do this again. Copy within the formula bar. Paste it right there. I've got all the restaurants. How many were word of mouth? I'm going to do sum if. Equals sign. Sum if. Come over here, select column A. And I'm going to come over to if those are Applebee. And then I also want to call, let's see, data. I'm summing column B. Okay, I want to anchor some things. The data set, I definitely want to anchor. I'm going to hit F4, or I can type out the dollar signs on both of those. When I look at results, I want the column to be anchored, the row I don't. And so if I come in here, hit say I want F4 a couple of times until I have the dollar sign only in front of the row, but not the column. And then B1, I want that to be able to change. And so now I can drag this over here and copy it down, and I've got all the data set for this. So in and out, how many walk-by interviews were there? Well, there are 23. You can see. So there's the sum if. What about, let's do some age range. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do restaurant. Actually, I don't like typing restaurant. Let's say equals that. That works. What happens if I do equals that? That's only Applebee's. I have to copy that all the way down. I can do that. I can say equals M2 and just drag that down. Or I can put in that formula again, either way. So I've got all the restaurants. And I'm going to put in min age. age, max age, average age. Maybe I want a space in there. Okay, so the minimum age, I want min ifs. And I'm looking at, see, column T has the age. And then the data set that I'm looking at, the criteria range is column A. And then I'm looking at Applebee's. And so the minimum age of survey respondents who put Applebee's as their top restaurant, 51, so they're a little bit older, which, I mean, that's fine. I'm gonna look at, I can take this and just copy all the way down. Oops. I've got all their ages. The max age is going to be almost the same. Actually, I'm just gonna copy this formula because min and max are usually, their companions, usually pretty close. And where it says min, I'm gonna type in max ifs. So the max range, criteria, okay, so that should be the same. There's only one respondent for Applebee's, that's why that's the same. So Arby's, 34 to 51, Burger King, only 45, Chick-fil-A, 21 to 69. So there we can see the range of values. And so we can tell something about if we're going to be ageist and use age as a way to compute whatever it is. We have that. We can put an average. I'm going to put the average ifs. Average ifs. And so let's do the data, column T. And the next one is the criteria range 1. And so we're putting that in here. You can do multiple criteria. That's why you have criteria 1, 2, 3, 4, and on and on. Okay, well, minimum maximum is 51. Of course, the average is going to be 51. Now we have some more information on here. Oops, one more. There we go. And so I'm adding, it's now we have the average age for each of these restaurants. Well, I guess. Okay, so there's the average age. And great. And I think that was what we had for everything for today. Please let me know if you have any questions about this. Thank you.